Hi guys, ouch, some really bad news for Rishi Sunak just when he thought things were going great. Tory MP Dan Poulter, who happens to be a doctor working in the NHS, has defected to the Labour Party. Now what's very interesting about this is that he isn't doing so to save his seat, as he has a pretty strong majority. But at the moment it seems he's extremely upset with his party and the government for running the healthcare service into the ground. This appears to be a real spite against Sunak and his government, as the MP is planning to stand down at the next election anyway. But how will the Tories spin this one?
And John, Dan Poulter is an interesting MP, isn't he? Because he works part-time, I seem to remember, as a hospital doctor. Is the NHS part of the reason he's going?
It's very much the reason why he's going. This is a real blow for the Conservatives and a massive coup for the Labour Party. He is indeed, he's been a GP. He was a junior health minister a few years back. He is MP for the seat of Suffolk Central and Ipswich North. Well, I have to say it's a pretty safe Tory seat, that, because his majority was 23,391 at the last general election. But he has, I understand, indicated he's not planning to stand at the next general election. This has been announced by Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Secretary, and confirmed to Sky News by senior Labour Party officials. And Wes Streeting has said this on Twitter, or X: proud to welcome Dan Poulter MP to the UK Labour Party. Of course, Mr Streeting is the Shadow Health Secretary. As a frontline clinician, he's seen the damage that 14 years of Conservative government have done to our NHS. Delighted to have his support. Look forward to working with him, especially on mental health reform. Mr Poulter, or Dr Poulter, I should say, has written an article for the Observer newspaper. And he says, as an MP and psychiatrist, I see the burden a service near breaking point takes on patients, their families and healthcare colleagues. And he talks about the junior doctors' strikes. He talks about spending night shifts working as a mental health doctor. And he says the NHS is struggling. He's struggling to look my NHS colleagues, my patients, my constituents in the eye, he says. When he says when the beds finally become available, they often be with a private health care provider. He talks about the chaos of today's fragmented patchwork of the NHS. So he's resigned from the Conservative Party to focus on my work as a doctor, he says, and support Keir Starmer, Wes Streeting. He says he'll continue to serve his constituents till the election, and he says Rishi Sunak should call the election as soon as possible. This is a huge blow for the Conservatives, another defection, and a massive coup for Labour, who will be delighted at this great propaganda boost for Labour on health, and a disaster for the Conservatives on health.
Yeah, well, ahead of the...
That's all right before the local elections. Now, I think this is interesting, a very interesting seat, because if we look at when Dan became an MP, he won his seat the first time in 2010. He won it again, of course, in 2015, 2017 and 2019. But of course, he's not going to run again in 2024. So it seems that he's been an MP for some time. He was an MP back in 2010. So he came in with the when Labour left and the Conservatives took over. Now, he's been in the NHS, I imagine, that during that time as well. So it seems to make sense that his colleagues have been putting pressure on him, saying, well, you know, you're an MP, you're a former junior minister. Why aren't you doing something about the NHS? And perhaps the pressure has become too much, and it's too difficult for him to remain as an MP. And he says, look, that's it, I'm going. Now, why somebody would become a Tory MP and care about the NHS is beyond me. You know, why he didn't go before this, why he's waiting until the very last minute. But those are his reasons. Now, for the Conservatives, it's going to be an absolute disaster. A former junior minister, and of course, another defection. The original defection, of course, when I talk about the first one, was, of course, Lee Anderson. But Lee Anderson had become an independent. He was sort of kicked out of the party, and then he defected. So the defection was not direct, it was indirect. This, of course, is a direct defection to the Labour Party, and a pretty senior one as well. somebody with a significant majority, somebody who would have likely held on to his seat at the next election if he had stayed on. But for him, it's too much, no more. The party represents the destruction of the NHS, and how can someone remain part of that? How can you be a doctor and be a politician who's on the side of the destruction of the NHS? So probably for him, he's called it a day. I respect that. I don't know why he didn't do it before, because the destruction of the NHS didn't start with Rishi Sunak becoming Prime Minister. It's been going on for many years. But it'd be interesting to see how the Tories spin this. Probably what they're going to do is ignore it and focus on the local elections, and perhaps Rishi Sunak will call a general election after the 2nd of May. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.